she sent me a message the day before to say, I will be smelling of fish. And I thought, I wonder if perhaps the EasyJet luggage allowance was so light that she only had one pair of trousers and they'd been out to a fish restaurant and spilt the oyster juice on her knee or something like that. No, not a bit of it. She comes from that part of the world where they smoke salmon, and she'd brought me a gift pack and it had leaked in her luggage. So everything, including her camera equipment, smelt of smoked salmon, which I did feel terribly sorry for her. But she didn't seem to be bothered by that.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. And here she comes.
Morning, girl. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Are you taken aback by the Yosemite National Park picture on my Momentum?
Yosemite, darling.
Sorry?
It's Yosemite.
Yosemite.
You say it's Yosemite. Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Fair enough.
So I was taken aback by the tiny delay that we have.
Oh, okay. Well, I will try and not jump all over you then.
Yeah, we'll have to do 2 RAF officers, over and out.
Yeah. So how is the weather in Blighty?
Oh, nice today. Nice
Okay.
today. Lovely, autumnal, sunny, bright, mild. I can't say it's been like that all week. Yesterday there was a dawn but no sunrise, for instance. But today there would have been a sunrise, although I was sleeping quite seriously during the sunrise this morning, so I missed it. But I can see that it was there. It's lovely.
Yeah.
And you?
Oh, we're getting glorious sunsets, and I was awake at 2:45. I went to bed at uncharacteristically early at 11 o'clock, and woke up 2:45. Couldn't get back to sleep again till about 5 o'clock. So relentless listening to podcasts with soporific voices, who shall remain nameless. Just desperately try and get back to sleep. But yeah, the sunsets are just stunning at the moment. So how's your week been?
You go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I went to a party on a Monday afternoon. That was fairly radical. Our neighbours up the road, my landlady and landlord, were having a housewarming party at their new gaff. It was really very beautiful. And they looked at the weather forecast, decided Sunday was rain and Monday was not. So they had the party on a Monday, which was very naughty feeling. And also,
I knew that actually, because your sister's been doing some work for me this week, and she said, I've got to go out to a party now or something like that. So I kind of knew that you two were partying on a Monday afternoon.
Yeah, caught Phoebe by surprise. She was most startled. And it was very funny because we all have to go up trekking through the olive groves to get to the house because that's a shortcut. And it was really funny because there were a trail of people walking up our road and through the olive groves. It was a bit Pied Piper-esque, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Yeah. And Suzanne arrives on Saturday, Suzanne Jorgensen. So we're looking forward to going to picking her up and finding out, what she thinks of the place, what her initial impressions are. And then I went to Write Club yesterday, which was is really hotting up now. The autumn is coming because the endless stream of visitors to various ladies' houses is dying off a little bit, and we've decided to have every alternate week we do Write Club, and every alternate other week we're going to do a writing retreat where we just get together in someone's house and just write, because we found that it'll be good for accountability. So, for example, I need to do some character planning, and I'm just never getting around to it. I'm not good with homework generally, and I just want to work and then stop work and watch telly or go down the beach, and I don't want to do any homework, even if it's for things I enjoy. So that seems like a good idea, is to just put ourselves into an accountable environment. And we're also going to start a podcast because there's no British Writers Podcast apparently. So if we start a podcast, then we can have, guests, because there's quite a lot of authors around here. And also we can have remote guests via Zoom, and we can talk about, the challenges of writing, what we're writing about, and see if we can get any interest going in our soon to be published publications.
And excuse me for asking such a sort of bald and bold question, but I know what the point of our podcast is. What's the point of a podcast like that?
To get agents and publishers interested.
Ah,
because
gotcha.
fiction writing's a bit different to business writing, and it's it's probably better to get a proper publisher if you can, or an agent at the very least.
Yeah.
So hopefully, and because we've worked out the format, we do some free writing every week. So twice, two bits of free writing every month, and Stephanie's very good about sharing things. So we learn something every time. So there's a technical section where we learn a bit about, say the Oxford comma, and things like that. But we're going to put a microphone in the middle of the table and just go through a set format and see how it goes. We're going to record 3 in one go in one day, and then launch it, and then do it monthly after that.
Marvellous. And does the bulk of the work for that fall on you?
Editing, might really. I mean, once a month, I think I can, I need something to help the long winter's evenings just fly by. So
yes.
When everyone's gone.
Okay.
What about you then? What have you been up to?
Well, before I tell you that, I've got something quite funny to share, actually, and maybe you'll get a little snippet for the front end of the show from this. But
right.
I seem to be the person, I don't know whether you get these as well and ignore them, but I seem to be the person that gets all the junk mail for our Own It, the podcast, and Own It, the Summit websites.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Ah, right. Well, I got one yesterday. I must be the named contact. They come through to me anyway, and it says it's for Own It the Summit, which, as you know, had a very particular and short-lived purpose. But nevertheless, people are endlessly trying to send us, trying to sell us, traffic generation strategies. And of course, I laugh like a drain whenever they do that, because, if you weren't already one of the world's leading experts on traffic generation strategies, but it's quite funny. But anyway, so this man describes himself as a social media consultant. His name's Robert. I won't name him any more than that. But the message is very amusing. The title, the subject line is "Greetings" with an exclamation mark, and then it says, "Howdy. I hope you're having a good day." And this is my favorite, I think, junk spam line I've ever read. "I stumbled upon your web and honestly cherished your content."
Oh dear, English not a first language then?
No, not first lang. Absolutely right. "I stumbled upon your web and honestly cherished your content." I'm so glad that somebody is cherishing the content on ownitthesummit.com, which actually neither you nor I cherish the content on there.
Well, that's not true. We do, and we're using it elsewhere now. So yeah.
But with that, the audio content we do, but the web content we don't.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Anyway, but Robert does, so that's good. So one thing about my week is, and you'll be pleased to hear, there's no ranting this week after last week's rant.
Yeah, did you laugh when you listened back to it?
I've listened back to it more than once, as you know, because there was a piece in there I wanted to edit out. But I didn't laugh, I don't think. I'll tell you what surprises me whenever I listen back, because I sometimes think that I've been a bit cruel and judgmental of you. And whenever I listen to it back, I always think, oh, it's much milder than I mean. I was shaking when I was ranting and talking to you last week, and I don't hear any of the shakes when I listen to it back. And it's a funny thing about your experience compared to the recording of your experience. So when I do listen to all of the shows before they go live, often more than once, if I'm concerned about the content, and my response, apart from when we need to make edits, is always the same, which is, oh, I thought I was a bit meaner than that, a bit bolder than that, a bit stronger than that. It never really sounds as bad as I remember in the moment. That's odd, isn't it?
Well, we could ramp up the boldness then, couldn't we?
No. I'm quite happy about that mostly. Anyway, let me tell you about my week. Okay. So the professional photo shoot finally took place on Saturday.
Oh, my word.
The makeup was done by Margie, and then I went to the railway station to fetch Alison, who's my client who lives in Lossiemouth, which is so far north in Scotland, you can't imagine. I think she had to drive 4 hours to the railway station. I might have exaggerated that. But anyway, she had to drive to the railway station. She came to London for 2 days and stayed with a friend. And she's a mum of 2 relatively small children. I think it was almost, mums of relatively small children don't get 2 days in London by themselves very often. So she had a lovely time. And she sent me a message the day before. I hope Alison won't mind me sharing so much stuff. She sent me a message the day before to say, I will be smelling of fish. And I thought, I wonder if perhaps the EasyJet luggage allowance was so light that she only had one pair of trousers and they'd been out to a fish restaurant and spilt the oyster juice on her knee or something like that. No, not a bit of it. She comes from that part of the world where they smoke salmon, and she'd brought me a gift pack and it had leaked in her luggage. So everything, including her camera equipment, smelt of smoked salmon, which I did feel terribly sorry for her. But she didn't seem to be bothered by that. And I must say that the smoked salmon, I then broke the low carb rule and went to Tesco's to get some bagels on Sunday morning, because if there's one thing you need with smoked salmon, it's a bagel and cream cheese. Absolutely, excuse my language, bloody delicious. So delicious. I had to have a second one. And I cut my finger open with you'll laugh at this. I was using a bread knife, which seemed very blunt on the bagel, slid off the bagel and cut my finger wide open. And fingers bleed quite a lot. So I was holding up my finger because I didn't want my blood in my bagel and I didn't want my blood in my laundry, which was the other job I was doing simultaneously. Anyway, I'm pleased to report that the scar is healing. Now, back to the point. So I fetched Alison from the railway station at 12:30 and we had lunch, and then we did a photo shoot until about 3:30 in the afternoon. And when I woke up in the morning, I had a recurrence of the evil backache. So I thought that was going to spoil the day, but it disappeared. The backache disappeared completely during the day, which was quite exhausting. But after the shoot was open, I didn't need to get her back to Gatwick until 7 o'clock. So we sat in the kitchen chatting for a couple of hours. And in autumnal England, you know, the day darkens at about late afternoon. And she said, "Oh, do you mind if I just go and get my camera and take some more pictures?" Well, suffice to say, the best pictures she took on the day, all of which are usable, are her and me sitting in the kitchen as the light was fading, which was rather amusing. The formal ones are great, but the ones she took when she felt inspired later in the day and we'd got to know one another better were better in the Rankin-esque style that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. But the day didn't stop there, because I drove her back to Gatwick, which in itself was nice because I like driving. And I haven't been able to do that while I've had the backache. And then coming back, I was singing at the top of my voice and rediscovering notes in my range that I haven't been able to use for a very long time. So the whole thing ended rather well. And Margie, the beautician, had also experienced a terrible bad back, and she had some leftover tramadol, which are very serious pain-killing drugs. And so when I got back from Gatwick, I had a tramadol and got into bed with Strictly Come Dancing. So the day ended. It was quite a long and exhausting and difficult day, and I'll tell you why, because I confessed it to Alison. I invited Alison to come and take the photographs because she's a client of mine and had been a client of mine for more than a year, so I thought she would know me quite well, and that's what I felt I needed because I don't like having my photograph taken. And I thought it would be exciting because she was, flown to London to do the photo shoot, but I was nervous on her behalf, not for her skill set, but for how poor a subject I am, because I don't, and she gave us some tips before we started about which part of your body to put forward, and I couldn't really follow any of them, to be honest. But it was such an exciting day that I forgot to wear. Poor Vanessa will be disappointed. I forgot to wear the AB crystal necklace that we rushed to, but actually it wouldn't. The AB crystal necklace wouldn't have looked good in the photographs, and I'll tell you why. Because when you put the light on, it lights up like a Christmas tree. And in daylight, it doesn't really do anything. You need sunlight on it. And Friday was a sunny day and Sunday was a sunny day, but Saturday, the day of the photo shoot, was overcast. So although we forgot to put it on, it won't be a bad thing. And I shall be wearing it at Christmas a lot and out doing the tree. And I have been wearing it a lot at my desk and even in my pajamas. So I'm enjoying my necklace, but it didn't make it into the photo shoot. But that's the long story about my week in the photo shoot. And thank God it's over. And I've got some 8 great shots that I'll be able to use for the book, which is the whole point, and social media profiles and different purposes and refreshing the website and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. So, what has fueled your fire this week?
Well, I've written this down, and I realise actually it's almost dampened my fire. But I'll explain it to you, and you see what you think. So, I've been learning rather a lot of new things recently, and finding myself quite exhausted by it all. So, I wrote a book, and it took 2 months and counting, and then there were the 2 Saturdays with the makeup trial and the 1 Saturday with the photo shoot and a lot of anticipation. And these 12 Booker novels that I've read for the deadline, which is on Tuesday the 17th, and Backache, which was 3 to 4 weeks. And SAD, the seasonal affective disorder when autumn comes in. And all of that added up, I've realised I'm completely exhausted. And last week I had to learn something new with my Facebook 22 Social. And this week I had to learn another new thing where I did the Interact Quiz Builder. Do you remember the Americans wrote and said, you want to be an affiliate of our quiz building software and all you've got to do is do a quiz and do a blog post about a quiz? Well, I made up my mind I was going to do that on Tuesday. And basically, learning all these new things and coping with all this newness is knackering. It's fun. There's a sense of achievement, but actually I've had enough of new now, Nicola. That's what I've had enough of new. I just want to do some old and familiar for a bit. Learning new and having new experiences is adrenaline drain, adrenal fatigue risking, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who loves to learn new stuff, I definitely go through phases where I'm in the mood to learn something new and when I'm not.
I don't want anything more new for a minute. Can you just leave me alone to just do what I know quite well and competently? Because I do get a sense of achievement, but I don't want my life to be always about striving for achievement. It's just too knackering.
Yeah. I took your quiz, by the way. And I do have a teeny tiny bit of feedback, which I'll give to you privately, just about how you can improve the copy on the page I ended up on, just to get a better result. But it was very nice, very easy to use, very nice.
Feel free to email me.
Yeah, will do. And obviously asking for permission first for feedback.
Well, permission is granted. Feel free to email me.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very nice, very enjoyable, very very easy to use, very fast, and I did it on my mobile as well. You'll be glad.
Well, it took me all day to work out how to do it, and it's knackering. And I think I will have to take out the big pictures because people want to have to scroll and they don't like scrolling, but they were the pictures in the prescribed size and the advice said use pictures. So like a good girl, I followed the instructions and that hasn't really been terribly helpful.
I'm not sure if it with a quiz, if you need pictures, they were nice, but
interestingly, the test quest they showed me, here's 3 examples of other people, and other people haven't got the pictures on their actual question pages because presumably they found the same thing as me. Is the 2 or 3 bits of feedback I've had is I've got to scroll and I don't want to scroll. People don't even like scrolling anymore.
I know, very, very incredible, isn't it? Okay, so what's fueled my fire is well, I've got lots of books. I've had a lovely book arrive for my birthday, which was I've got a favourite author called Ian Banks who writes modern fiction. He wrote modern fiction and some of the best sci-fi in the world, and he died sadly recently.
He has 2 genres, doesn't he? Big sort of novels and sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. And he writes the sci-fi under Ian M. Banks.
Yes.
But Phoebe managed to find a book called that he'd written that I hadn't read, which was In Search of the Perfect Dram, which sounds like it's going to be a travel book of him travelling around Scotland in search of the perfect dram of whiskey.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun, I think, because he had a great sense of humour, and I'm looking forward to that. But it's very tiny writing, so I can only read it when I've taken my contact lenses out. And the other one I've got is Unscripted by M.J. DeMarco, who wrote a book I really liked a lot called Millionaire Fastlane, which was a little bit dull at the beginning, but the last sort of half of it was fantastic. And this one is Unscripted, Life, Liberty and the Pursuit of Entrepreneurship. And I think, judging by what people have said about it in some of the masterminds I'm in, I'm going to know a lot of it, but I'm looking forward to reading it nonetheless. And I just enjoy his writing, so that's good. When I was at Write Club yesterday, I was very much made aware of all the books I haven't read in the world, because they're all reading very actively, because they're all sort of retired, I suppose. They're not haven't got jobs, and they're writing books, and they're writing very well, and they're reading very actively. And it made me realise that I need more time in my life to just read. And it needs to be in the daytime, not at night, because I tend to read at night trashy novels because my brain's a bit fried, and then I listen to podcasts to go to sleep. So I need to carve out time in my day that I can do active reading while I'm wide awake, with or without my contact lenses in, depending on the size of the text. And I think as someone who aspires to be a writer, I think you've got to be reading at the same time to be inspired, haven't you?
I totally agree. I mean, and the brilliant thing about being a writer is that reading time, you don't have to steal it or be apologetic about it. It's proper work connected to your writing.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a mind shift I've got to go through there, because it feels very, what's the word, decadent to read a novel in the daytime.
Well, in August, I agreed that we would read these 6 books for not the Booker Prize. And then they were okay, but I went, they're not very good. Perhaps we should read the Booker 6. And everybody said, oh, yes. So we're reading, I've had to read 6 books in about 4 weeks, one of which had 900 pages. So I've read 12 novels. Like Chris Barrow, I've read 12 novels in about 10 weeks. Haven't seen any telly of any description apart from the dancing, which is my antidote to the misery in the world. I've not seen any telly. I've not read any trash. I've read improving novels for about 10 weeks. And a bit like I said just now, oh God, I'm looking forward to this year's Lee Child, because I just want a page turner. Improving books are good. They're improving. And again, you get this buzz when you get to the end of, I've done something really valuable that's improving. But yeah, I mean, I have clients who's writers, and in a week where they don't write, if they've at least read, they've done some work.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Good. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, more sci-fi for you if that's the genre you're going to write.
I need to read well-written novels so I know that what well-written looks like.
Yes, and actually, that of course is very subjective.
True.
I think well-written is readable.
Yeah, absolutely. So
anything that's unreadable is not well-written, because I can't read it.
Here at Own It, we personally believe that leaders are readers, but sometimes it's just not convenient to read and you'd rather listen instead. For listeners of Own It the podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. A couple of titles we've picked out for you particularly are Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg or Crush It, Why Now is the Time to Cash In on Your Passion by Gary Vaynerchuk. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ownit. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ownit for your free audiobook. You can pick one of the ones I've chosen for you, or you can choose something else. Enjoy your listen. Client challenge of the week then.
I saw you appealing for it on Facebook about 5 minutes ago, and I thought, that woman, she is chaotic.
I know.
Right, what have you got, darling?
I've got nothing, Judith. Which?
No, I know. I suspected as much. Oh, good. Should we just can this and move on and talk about books all week?
No, but I'm going to turn that into a client challenge of the week, because what do you do when you've got a content marketing strategy and your brain goes blank? And how do you, and in fact, it also comes because Sara helped me with a bit of an inspiration for my V-zine this week. How do you inspire yourself when you're someone who inspires other people? How do you sharpen your saw? That's the question.
Don't know. Next.
Well,
it's never happened. It doesn't happen to me. I do 2 things. I've got 2 strategies. One is I look at what have my clients asked me this week.
Yeah.
And the other one is, it's a bit woo-woo for you, what do I feel inspired to tell them this week?
Oh, that's quite a good one. So you're tapping into your intuition.
Yeah, I go to sleep confident that I'll wake up in a nap. So I either go to bed overnight, or I have a nap confident that I'll wake up and my subconscious is doing the work, or it'll come to me in the shower. I don't really ever run dry. I mean, as you can tell by the 2 of us yakking in this, we don't really run dry. Client challenges are much harder. That's why I passed it over to you at show number 100. They are hard to come up with, but I don't think content's hard to come up with.
See, my clients are completely different to yours. If they are feeling stuck, they just keep quiet. They don't ask questions. They only ask questions when they're actually moving forward.
Yeah.
Which is quite a challenge for me, because I have to be constantly encouraging them to. And I do find actually that the V-zine and the podcast does spark conversation, because people listen to it for entertainment, and it gets them thinking about their own business. So how do you? So you don't ever run short of inspiration. Is that because you're
sometimes most weeks? I publish my newsletter on a Friday, and that's pretty much the only content we're looking for. We've got this crib sheet for this, and it asks us questions, doesn't it? So that's a prompt, isn't it? One thing about your week, what's fueled your fire, it prompts you. And you won't be surprised to hear for both of those, the podcast and the newsletter, I'm well prepared 48 hours in advance. But so it gives me, so some weeks for the newsletter, occasionally I go, No idea what I'm going to write about this week. And I think yesterday morning, which was newsletter day, I put in the group where I share every day. We share gratitudes. I love my life group. I put no idea what I'm going to write my newsletter about this week, but I'm sure it'll come to me in the shower. There's a sort of confidence that an idea will come from somewhere. And I think it's because we're on 153 episodes of the podcast and we've not run out of anything to talk about yet. And I'm probably in the 12th year of writing newsletters and not run out of things to talk about yet. So it sort of comes from, I never have, so why would I this week?
Yeah. Whereas I find I'm so obsessed with certain topics that I would be tempted to bang on about them endlessly every week.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's an interesting one. So listen, what do I do for inspiration? When I sometimes, run dry. I sometimes think, okay, I've not necessarily about content, because having to produce the V-zine forces me to think of something every week. And the biggest challenge I have is making the V-zine different to the podcast. So I can't talk about what we've talked about in this, otherwise all my content ends up on the same topic.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes come to the point where I think, especially as I'm not trying to create lots of new products now. So I do come to the thing of what else can I do to market my business? Because that's all it's about once you've got a product is marketing the business.
I definitely don't think we can come up with new stuff every week. That's impossible because there's not endless amounts of topics for our content, are there?
No, well, you have promised that we could start talking about some of the things in your book after January. So I've only got to keep
Well, funnily enough, that's what I put in my newsletter this week. I went and found one of the shortest Q&As and put it in there. But I put it in there for two reasons. Not because I couldn't think of what to write, but but as a trailer for the book.
Yes. So you're moving into, now the book is as a product is finished or being finalized, you're now moving into marketing mode, aren't you? So you'll sit and think, what else can I do to market this book?
Well, I've been doing that for all the way through, sharing the chapter headings, sharing the memes, and I put the cover and the latest photograph, put quite a lot of stuff in tomorrow's newsletter about it because we're getting close. But it's interesting you should say this thing about your clients not asking you questions when they're stuck, they go quiet, because that's precisely what I want my business to be about now. And I think we've got that in common, is we want people to ask us. So much so that I've got this group called Ask Judith. And also last night, hush my mouth, I formed another URL, askjudith.biz, because that's what a lot of my strap line and a lot of my book and a lot of my everything is about. And I went and looked at, what did they ask me on Monday night in Small Business Big Magic? What did somebody ask me in a private message this week? I need to be much more aware of recording every single question they ask me, because 52 of them will go into the book, 52 different ones could go into the newsletter, yet more ones could become content. I do think people want to know what we know, but because we tend to take for granted what we know, it's quite difficult to recall them asking you, because you just trot off an answer and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it is the biggest challenge. I think there's definitely a tipping point of when so many number of people, when they start to fire off each other. So someone will ask a question, someone else will reply and bring up their own issue.
Yes,
so it gets a critical mass, I think, at a certain point. So
going back to your point about inspiration, I would probably open up Facebook, and it isn't long before you see something that you have an opinion about.
Yes, that's true. Even though we're trying not to have opinions on Facebook anymore.
Well, actually, opinion is good, isn't it?
Yes, I was just teasing you
after
last week. Yeah, I do the same. I've got several go-to masterminds, and I just skim what people are talking about in there, and then I often find a new thing that I can try. For example, this week LinkedIn have opened up native video uploading, which Sara apparently told me about 2 weeks ago, and I obviously just didn't take in at the time. But so that's the kind of thing you pick up and you think, oh, okay, I'll start uploading my videos there as well then. And so you often get something that will, because I think it's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because we're all trying to have a life as well as a business. But I think office hours that you've designated for yourself, you do want to be doing as much as you possibly can to market your product or service.
Well, you can do, but you do. Yes, you do. I agree. However, this concept of having a business and a life excuse me, I think is relevant because, for instance, Alison, the photographer, went home very late on Saturday night, and then I think it was half term in Scotland, so her children were away, and then she had to drive. So far, I've only seen the proofs, and I wrote in my newsletter, because my photographer has a life and a coach who encourages her to have a life. So actually, we don't need to be, I can't separate the two, Nicola. My newsletter is full of what it's like to be me because I am an entrepreneur working for myself. And that is relevant. It seems rather personal sometimes, but, I can't separate myself from my feelings about the world. And that my feelings about the world have an impact on how I operate during office hours. And, if you're writing in your own voice, I don't keep it exclusively to business questions or business issues. I write about my first woman experience of being self-employed, knowing that that is relevant to everybody reading it because they're also having a first person experience of being self-employed.
Mm. Whereas the V-zine is me, talking about what it's like to be, living abroad and working and traveling and marketing my business. And that is what, so that's my relevance, isn't it? Is people come to me to help them to market their business better. So I have to always be seen to be marketing my business better. And the endless search for that goes on. But if I'm going to have time to sit and read books, I need to get very firm boundaries on what my office hours are.
Well, or more what you call work. So in these 10 weeks where I've had to read 12 novels, one of which had 900 pages, every available waking moment I had to go to that novel and get it out the way before I could read the next 5. And so yesterday morning's a good example, was the 0800 call, as I call it, 8 o'clock in the morning. So by 3 o'clock, I've done my last client. I'm knocking off reading because I've got another thing that I'm committed to with people, some of whom are my clients. And so I can't make the distinction quite as much anymore.
Yeah, and I'm trying to corral my work, which by which I mean creating my content, which is podcast and V-zine creation, and that's pretty much it for me. Apart from perhaps tweaking my funnel, and I'm trying to corral that into certain days because I definitely find that if I have days where I think I don't have to do anything today, it's much easier for me to do leisure activities than if I think I'll do a bit and then I'll stop because I can't stop.
Well, here's a good thing for you then, because one of the questions that's come up this week in Ask Judith from 2 separate sources is from people, and this is going to be one of your challenges soon because you're going to emerge as a creative writer as well as a business writer, and you won't want to separate those two because they're both Nicola. So the question this week from the group was, I've written 3 books, how can I make money from them? And my first question was, well, where have you published them? On Amazon? Have you done any marketing to drive any traffic there and achieve any sales? No. I only like creating. I don't really like marketing. And I had to be beastly. I had to say, look, nothing sells itself unless you can understand that marketing of your book is exactly the same as writing your book, because marketing for a book can be all done in the written word. How is that different?
Yeah.
So actually this week, 2 of my business questions were about people who'd written books, not necessarily for business readers.
Yes, and I've written books for business readers and been absolutely terrible at marketing them. So because I'm always on to the next thing, I've got to stop. I don't know how.
Well, actually, the thing about always on to the next thing maybe is the challenge of the week. Why do we move? Wasn't that what I just said? I don't want to keep learning new stuff. It's exhausting. Please let me just stay in not my comfort zone, but my zone of ease, really, where I can easily do the majority of things. Yes, good to have stretch now and again. But I think, my example of this is always Liz Gilbert, who first off wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which was a memoir. Then she wrote a novel called, was unreadable. I couldn't read it. It was because it was period. And then she wrote a self-help book. She switches genre as a writer all the time. Why shouldn't you, Nicola Cairncross, switch genre or publish in both genres? In which case, you'll have to market business books and fiction.
Yeah, and I would like to go back because they've just started a business book of the year. You've got to enter your book, Judith. Anything that's published in 2017 can be entered. It's my ex-publisher and Lucy McCarruthers or something. She has launched this Business Book of the Year Awards, and she works a lot with Daniel Priestley and the key person of influence crowd. Really good, knows what she's doing, and I think you've got to enter your book, and I would like to enter mine, but I've realised I don't think it's good enough, so I've got to go back and re-edit it now. And so I think...
Which means you won't be ready for 2017, and neither will I, but presumably they're going to pick an annual thing.
Yes, it's going to be an annual thing. But so what I've got to do is stop thinking what else, and draw a line.
Actually, you said this last week. Actually, you said something like, no, it was the week before when somebody had given you the unwanted feedback. You said something like, I like to get it out there fast and see if it's got any traction first and then go back and improve it. So actually, your job might be going back and improving things you've already created.
Yes, and also knowing when enough's enough, because instead of looking for inspiration for new ways of marketing things, I ought to just think the things I'm doing now are working. Why do I need anything else?
Yeah.
I always feel that I should be looking for what else. That's the phrase that goes through my mind. What else can I do? Whereas actually I should be closing the computer, going off and doing my hobbies or my writing or reading some books, and resting content in the knowledge that the marketing I'm doing now is working. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that.
Well, you can do it in two ways. You can rest in the knowledge that what you're doing now is working for, say, 75 or 80% or some figure like that. You'll always look for the new innovations in marketing, just as I will, because actually this thing about that I'm doing on Facebook is a better way of doing it than dragging people onto my website. We can't stick with stuff that we know used to work. We've got to keep an eye on stuff that's working better, more modern, in a more modern way, and in an easier way. So we'll always be interested in that. And you're always an innovator and a leader in that. So you'll always want to tell people about that, even if they're things which by and large and mostly you do go off later. So for instance, innovator on Twitter, not in the least bit interested in anymore. And actually, if you look at the chart of the reach and the importance of the various social media platforms, Twitter is well down. So no wonder we're not interested in it anymore. It doesn't really do any good.
No, it's not growing.
No. Yeah.
Although lots of people still say it's very good for business to business. So there you go.
What is this client challenge of the week all about? Because I have to go and put this in the show notes. And all we seem to have done today is ramble a bit.
Well, I think it started out as about inspiration, and it turned out about what else, and then it also turned into how do you know when you're doing enough? So take your pick out.
Do you know, one of the questions in my book is, when is enough enough?
Okay, so
but it's more esoteric than yours. It's more about having enough, being enough.
Yeah.
Rather than yours is a drive to create, because you're a creator. Surely that's the answer to this.
Yes, I suppose so. So okay, so we could call it something along the lines of, when do you stop?
Yours would be, yes, when do you stop? Your challenge will be to revisit your better quality stuff and improve it.
Yes, that's very true.
And that's still creative, by the way.
Yes, it is. Yes, I really want to make everything look better as well once. So I need to stop creating new stuff in order to be able to make the existing stuff look better. And
make sure you've marketed to has marketed to the max. That's why I'm going to market this book for 3 years. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Your best. Make sure you've made the best of your best stuff.
Yeah. And and direct all my creativity into writing my novel.
Yes. Making the best of your best stuff. I actually don't think that it's uncreative to go back and improve. I'm always saying I corral all of my creativity into the one thing. I don't spread my seed wide. I bring it in narrow.
Sorry.
Yes, you've got a dirty mind. Now the listener knows that too.
Very entertaining vision there. But yes, we'll move swiftly on.
Okay.
What's your word of the week then?
Commitment, for the same reason I had a moan about doing all of those new things. Both times when I had to learn something new last week that I didn't want to do, and learn something new this week that I didn't want to do, but I'd made a commitment to other people that I would. I outed myself in various groups and said, today I'm going to do this, come hell or high water, and I clear a day. And I fortunately am a woman of commitment. If I say I'm going to do it, I do it. It's very rare that I go, oh, I've committed to this and I don't really want to do it anymore. But it's not easy.
No, and I actually talked to my Vezian 2 weeks ago about commitment, because it's about commitment to yourself, commitment to your business, commitment to other people makes it easier, I find, because we're all better at committing to other people and then sticking to it than we would be if it was committing just to ourselves. And it's commitment to move forward as well, to keep your business moving forward. But then we just decide we're not going to.
Well, we may just need to reframe moving forward. It might be Kaizen, continuous improvement.
Ah, okay. Yes, that sounds less exhausting than moving
Yes, forward. Doesn't it? It might be tweaking and improving, not perfecting, but I will give you a bit of feedback off the podcast as well, where 2 people have confided in me that there's an opportunity for you to improve something. I won't name their names, but
okay. All right.
Bish Bash Bosh is good, and you're proud of it, and it's one of the things I admire you for. But up-leveling, your horrible American word, sorry, improving seems like a good, we might make this our year of improvement. What do you think?
Yeah, and there's the title there. It's From Creativity to Kaizen.
Okay, creativity to Kaizen. Okay, or creativity and Kaizen. It's their cousins. How do they fit together? I'll try and work that out later. Anyway, tell me your word.
Native, because this thing about LinkedIn video made me all excited, and I've had some stonking results this week. I just thought, I'll just start uploading Kate Cocker, the 12-week challenge. I've just uploaded her videos natively to your LinkedIn, and I'm not joking, Judith. Within a couple of hours of uploading the first one, she had a request to be featured on one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
I must have lost consciousness for a moment. When you said native videos the first time today, I thought you said Facebook. Just then you said LinkedIn.
LinkedIn have just basically, up until now, you haven't been able to upload your videos to LinkedIn. You've only been able to share a YouTube link, and it worked very well.
Okay.
Brought in the visuals, and you were actually able to watch it in LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn have opened up their own video platform, and they are really spreading far and wide any videos that are uploaded natively to LinkedIn. So as part of your Be Everywhere online strategy, you should take the bit of content that you shared on YouTube and you shared on your blog and you shared on your Facebook page and just take it over and upload it to LinkedIn. It takes seconds. It's really fast, and LinkedIn will reward you by spreading your video far and wide.
Well, 2 interesting thoughts that come from that. As a woman who isn't on LinkedIn and doesn't like video, there's nothing in that for me. But I can see why there would be for other people. Yeah. But I was on a webinar yesterday with my new Facebook software platform people, and their argument is don't try to be everywhere online. Try to refine and strengthen the one area that you do decide you want to dominate.
Yeah, and I know this because my mentor says I don't like that title either. But the point is, at the beginning, you don't know which platform's going to work for you. So the whole point of my Be Everywhere Online program is not that you're being everywhere online and spreading yourself too thin. It's that you're creating one piece of content every week, and then you are using that to be everywhere online.
And then you could see which channel responded best to your content, perhaps, and then narrow it down to that.
Then exactly, and that's where you get your clients from. And the other point is, of course, that after a little while, you're not supposed to be doing your content Being Everywhere Online strategy yourself. You're supposed to have your VA do it, because once you've created the initial content, which should take you no more than 20 minutes a week, it should be taken out of your hands and it should be, spread far and wide by your assistants. That's the point.
Okay.
Right, project updates then.
So when you said native, I thought native cunning. That was the word that came to me after that.
Native cunning?
Yes, that's an expression, native cunning. We've got native cunning. Yes, we could, yes. Now, tell me about project updates.
Not much to report, really. Own It is steady. I've started looking at podcast groups, joining a load more of those, so I can promote it in there when allowed, because they all let you, one day a week do something like that. And there's podcasts about podcasts, so I've started getting a few lists of those. Kate's a very good contact on podcasting, so she's giving me some ideas about how to promote our podcast better.
Okay.
And that's it on the project updates.
Okay, I've got a little thing here. My book is still with my first proofreader of 3, but she's promised to get it back to me tonight. Then I'm passing it on to number 2 and number 3. I've had to update the man who's waiting to finalise the cover, and that I've got new photos, and that's with he told me to get as many eyes on it as I could. So actually, we're a bit behind on my book, and we're going to start with the ebook. I'm not doing the real book until after Christmas.
Have you chosen your 3 reviewers for different skill sets, or are they all looking for typos?
Well, it's interesting. I appealed. There's somebody, the first 2 people, I believe, have some professional experience of it.
Okay.
So they've been proofreaders, or they've done the course, or something like that. And the first person is a very reliable, business-like person. The second person is a client, and I said, no busy clients will be considered for this. And she begged me, so I let her. And the third one is eagle-eyed Marion, and I'm leaving Marion till last, because if I make the corrections of number 1 and number 2, I know that Marion will spot typos, and I also know that she'll be my harshest critic, which is why I'm leaving her to last. And although no criticism has been invited in this, it's a typo search, I know that Marion won't be able to help herself. But there was something here. Oh, yes, this afternoon I'm talking to the man, that my celebrity client who I want to do the forward. So I've got my heart in my mouth a bit today to, at the end of his session, ask him if he would spend 4 hours of his life reading my book and then writing the forward for it. And I'm confident that if he says no, there will be somebody else who will. But there is one human being on planet Earth that I want to write the forward, and I'm speaking to him this afternoon.
Oh, exciting.
I know.
Fingers crossed, love.
Yes,
okay.
That's exactly what I said to my group this morning. Fingers crossed.
Okay. So who or what's impressed then?
Well, your sister, actually, she's had to do a lot of very hard things for me this week. Not things that she finds hard, things that I would find hard. So, for instance, last Friday, I finally caved in and paid the $50 recurring tax for the SSL license for my website. And of course, immediately after they'd installed it, nothing worked on my website except for the home page. So it transpired that all the links that didn't have, any page that had a link that didn't have the S in it, wouldn't show either as it was intended and wouldn't show as secure. So the hosting company did something, and it was better. And then Sara did a lot more things, and it was better still, nay, perfect, in fact. And then Veronica Pullen posted something about instant articles and how to make our blog posts more readable on Facebook. And I said, Sara, will you do this for me? And she's had a lot of tinkering about and fixing to do. And I said to her, it's interesting, isn't it, that just following Veronica's instructions and just getting the SSL certificate, I had naturally assumed would be techie, so Sara would do them, but everything would be easy after. Not a bit of it. They created more problems than they solved, and then embedding my quiz made a couple of glitches. None of this made me happy. And, I'm working my way towards a complete website simplification and an overhaul. And, your website is just a pain in the bottom when these things happen. But Sara just, it's just grist to her mill. She actually is detecto, Sara. She just likes finding out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's got this tenacity
that
nobody else has got. The minute I come to a glitch, she's like, oh, look, I've really spent all day making this quiz already, and now it's created this problem. But she seems to, it's her calmness. When an entrepreneur has a go, F's it up, and needs her to get you out of the mess you've created, Sara's your bird.
Absolutely. And she's got 2 really incredible skills. One is problem solving and one is research. And you can, the other thing is, like you say, it's tenacity. She doesn't give up. Whereas I'd throw my hands up in the air with disgust and stomp off.
Oh. I've used all of my energy by then in the creation, you see. I've got nothing left for solving tech problems.
I know. And at one point, I think we went for a walk somewhere, went down to the shop or something, and she told me that, she was working on your site and that, there was quite a lot to it, and that she was, working her way steadily through the different options. And I said, I don't know how you do that stuff. I just bore me so much. And she said, yeah, I know, but I want to solve it. And then later on she walked past me and said, I am a genius.
Well, she sent me several emails saying I fixed it. Yes, she was a genius. Yeah
It's good, very good. And that's all different people's skill sets, isn't it? So now she's going to get a slew of people wanting her to fix things for her.
Yes, and that she doesn't seem to mind that, bless her.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so what's impressed me? There's two things, very quickly. One of my favourite people who I go to for inspiration is Steve Bartlett of Social Chain in Manchester, and he's just launched a podcast, which I thought was going to be just a spin-off of his daily YouTube video called Everyday Steve. But no, not a bit of it. It's a different thing entirely. He's got a thing, a bit of software that he called Diario. Now, I'm not sure what this software is. I haven't tracked it down yet, but he's basically talking into his phone using this Diario app. And then on Sunday night, he's reviewing what he's talked about during the week, and he's then creating quite an intimate, deep look at what it's really like to be a CEO at 25 and running a big, expanding
company. There's your answer to how to create inspiration. Record your week and then digest it at weekends. Yeah.
And then talk about what the theme for the week is and what you'd like to share with people. I mean, I thought.
And interestingly, he's not making that separation between him and his business either.
No, he talks a lot about relationships in this first one. I really recommend it. It's called Diary of a CEO. It's very intimate. It sounds like he's right there in your head and talking about some really deep and interesting stuff. It was great. I really enjoyed it. About 30.
Do you know what's also interesting about that is what was your first newsletter called?
Diary of a Seaside Landlady.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's right. God.
So the diary of is quite a compelling concept, isn't it?
It is, yes, because people want to know what it's really like.
Yeah.
They want to know whatever it is, what it's really like. And the other final one was lots of people are struggling to get traffic. And that's, Kate, she wasn't getting any traffic to her website. And we are getting, 10 visitors a day now, which are just coming from sharing our stuff. We're sending people straight to her opt-in page, straight to her sales page. And so she's now got a faint chance of making a sale, and she's certainly building a mailing list. But a lot of people really struggle with getting traffic. And there's just come to my mind, a really good training course called the Get Traffic Plan on $10 a day, which, let's face it, if you can't, invest $10 a day in getting traffic and eyeballs to your offers, then you're going to really struggle. But it's from Digital Marketer, the Ryan Dice team. They're very, very good. digitalmarketer.com/LP/fat/get
Just send me a link, darling. I'll put it in the notes. Okay. Nobody's going to be able to write that down while they're listening.
All right. So go to the show notes to get the link.
But actually, that's something you could have written, the Get Traffic Plan on $10 a day.
It is, but I could, but it's already been done.
No, not now. I'm saying you could have done that. I mean, that's one of your concepts.
Yeah, and it's
what you're doing with Kate, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
But the this course is just $7, and it will get you started, and it will get you getting some eyeballs to your offers and building a mailing list for $10 a day. So go for it. Okay. That's it. I think we're done.
Okay, good. Right, see you next week. Yep.
Next week.
Yep. Bye.
Gotta take it on my way. Gotta take it on my way. It's a brand.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com. And you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.